Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. The sun dipped beneath the horizon, painting the clouded sky in shades of burnt orange and deep purples. In the small town of Maplewood, the evening stillness had a heavy weight to it, a quiet that seemed almost unnatural. Nestled between dense pines and winding highways, this community prided itself on its tranquility. Yet, beneath the picturesque facade, a darkness was beginning to unfurl. Days passed like pages turning in a beloved book, each one predictable, each person steeped in familiarity. The scent of the nearby bakery wafted through the air, a blend of fresh bread and warm pastries that beckoned to passers-by. Children played tag just beyond the park's wrought iron gates, their laughter echoing in the soft evening air. They remained blissfully unaware of the shadows creeping closer, of the sinister turn their lives would soon take. Word spread like wildfire one October evening, ignited by whispers and concerned glances. Jenna Thompson, a local high school senior, did not come home after cheer practice. It was rare for her to deviate from routine. In fact, it was practically unheard of. Her mother's heart raced with panic, radiating sorrow and anxiety down the telephone line as she called the police. With each ring, the weight of dread tightened around her chest. When officers arrived at the Thompson home, they knew this wasn't just a case of a teenager staying out too late. As investigators meticulously collected background information, they quickly realized that Jenna's disappearance was about to unravel a tapestry of secrets that ran deeper than anyone could have imagined into the very bones of Maplewood itself. The victim. Jenna Thompson was the heart of Maplewood High, a beacon of joy and determination that drew people to her. At 17, she was already balancing her ambitions of becoming a veterinarian with the everyday tumult of adolescence. Her bright smile and contagious laugh made her the favorite among teachers and students alike, known for her keen intellect and indomitable spirit. On the surface, Jenna was like any other teenager, navigating the challenges of high school friendships and dreams for the future. But as investigators began to dig deeper into her life, they soon uncovered the murky undercurrents swirling around her existence. Friends recalled Jenna's recent struggle strains in her once unbreakable friendship with Lila, her confidante since childhood. Rumors circled about jealousy and misunderstandings, layers of intrigue that hinted at deeper animosities lurking behind smirks and forced smiles. Her social media accounts painted a facade of normalcy, vibrant snapshots of laughter-filled gatherings and jubilant school events. Yet, as detectives shadowed these digital trails, a slightly different picture materialized. Jenna had recently posted cryptic messages hinting at feelings of isolation. Lines spoken in jest became the echoes of uncertainty, revealing a girl wrestling with inner demons that rarely surface in the polished veneer of teenage life. As the sun broke the horizon, casting long shadows over Maplewood, her absence struck a chord that reverberated through the town like a haunting melody. It left a gaping void in her family, her parents frantically combing through her belongings, searching for any clue or note, an errant message. A once vibrant home felt eerily quiet, every room heavy. Who could harm such a bright star? And why was Jenna, the girl so often the center of attention, now lost to them? The answers eluded not just her family, but also the entire town, spiraling into a fog of confusion and dread. The crime scene. The air was still when the call came in, slicing through the early morning calm with a sense of foreboding. A young woman's body had been discovered in the woods just outside of Maplewood. Muffled gasps filled the police station as word spread among the officers. They had feared this moment. The grim possibility shallowly buried beneath hopeful searches finally surfaced. In the distance, the drone of sirens punctuated the serenity, as blue and red lights flickered through the thicket. Detective Mark Henderson drove to the crime scene, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. He was seasoned, yet nothing prepared him for such an ugly turn. As he approached the secluded area, the smell of damp earth mixed with the tension of dread. Paramedics moved purposefully, while forensics teams began their meticulous examination. They guarded the scene like sentinels, convinced that each detail, however minor, might provide crucial insight. When he caught his first glimpse of the body, it sent a jolt through him. Jenna's once vibrant spirit now lay lifeless, surrounded by the very trees she had likely roamed as a child, innocent and carefree. The leaves, adorned in autumn's bright hues, seemed almost mocking against the stark reality of the situation. Her clothes a cheerleader's uniform, now smudged with dirt and leaves told the story of a violent struggle, one that had disrupted the peaceful facade of their town. As forensics collected evidence, Detective Henderson surveyed the surroundings, each detail biting into his thoughts. A tattered scrap of fabric caught his eye, wedged between the roots of an ancient oak. The sensation of tragedy weighed on him. This was not just another case, this was Jenna. Pieces of her life were forming a mosaic, chaotic yet vital in revealing the truth. The small, familiar town of Maplewood stood at a precipice, the specter of a predatory force lurking beneath its harmonious surface. Unbeknownst to its residents, the idyllic life they revered was shattered and the pursuit of justice declared open. The early investigation. With Jenna's body retrieved from the woods, the atmosphere in Maplewood shifted dramatically. Once a sleepy town, its air now crackled with tension and uncertainty. Detective Henderson assembled a team dedicated to unraveling the threads of this tragedy. Interviews would become their lifeblood, and every witness, every friend, and every distant acquaintance was a potential piece of the puzzle that could illuminate Jenna's last hours. Henderson met with Lila, Jenna's best friend, in the school library's quiet corner. She sat rigid in her seat, her makeup a mask of composure that couldn't conceal the turmoil beneath. Lila recounted their last conversation, her voice faltering as she recalled Jenna's worry and restlessness, small cracks in the foundation of their friendship that had slowly grown. The detective noted the changes in Lila's demeanor, the way her eyes flickered with guilt when recalling a fight the two had a week prior. Did she mention anyone in particular that was bothering her? Henderson asked, probing gently. Lila paused, her lips trembling as she wrestled with the memories. There was this guy, Eric. He seemed to take a sudden interest in her, the kind that makes you feel uncomfortable. He'd follow us sometimes, she admitted, glancing at the ground. But I didn't think it was anything serious. This revelation led Henderson to investigate further. In the days that followed, police canvassed the area, talking to students, teachers, and local residents about Eric, unearthing a name that echoed in the hearts of the community. Initial discussions led to a portrait of a troubled youth. Eric was described as charming yet unpredictable, a boy with a reputation for crossing boundaries in social interaction. As Officer Morales scoured social media for clues, an unsettling pattern emerged. The interactions between Jenna and Eric shrouded in playful messages and lingering stare slowly morphed into potential obsession. Neighbors began to recount fleeting encounters with Eric, each account sketching in the outline of a suspect. What appeared to be innocent admiration twisted into something murkier, and as the detectives' team knitted this narrative together, they braced for the possibility that the darkness that had taken Jenna was closer than they dared imagine. The dead ends. Days turned into weeks as the investigation plunged deeper into the underbelly of Maplewood. Each led seemingly promising, yet dishearteningly unproductive. The warmth of autumn shifted into the chill of November, and with it, hope wavered. Detective Henderson felt the pressure mounting, the weight of unspoken expectations heavy on his chest. Community members, now vigilantly worried and restless, began to whisper, their gazes lingering on one another with suspicion. The focus on Eric intensified, yet every attempt to bring him in for questioning met with resistance. He was cooperative, perfectly pleasant even, feigning innocence in his interactions with officers. The alibi his parents provided was tight. He had been home at the time of her disappearance, or so it seemed. As the investigation continued, frustrations simmered. Every avenue seemed to unravel into a dead end. Witnesses turned out to have memories colored by their biases, and leads turned stagnant, each redirection feeling like a step back. Meanwhile, Jenna's family remained in the limelight of grief, desperate for closure, their pleas echoing through the community. An obituary circulated in the local paper, but the pain it carried seemed to linger indefinitely, poisoning the sense of security that once enveloped the town. The bright-eyed girl with ambitions for the future had been reduced to a sepulcher of whispers, a young life robbed before it even began to flourish. Detective Henderson decided to rethink their approach. He arranged meetings with the school's administration, hoping to unearth any behavioral issues or bulleted diary entries Jenna might have kept. As they rifled through old records, Henderson found himself confronting the haunting reminder of how fragile teenage lives could be. Sudden breakups, shifting friendships, harsh rumors. In this small town where everyone knew one another, perhaps the true monster had always lurked too closely. As the investigation spun its wheels, the haunting reality set in. The longer they remained without concrete leads, the further Jenna's story slipped into the abyss, and with it, the potential for justice. Each failed lead, discarded theory carried an echo of desperation and disappointment. But Henderson understood one undeniable truth. The search was not just about solving a crime. It was about reigniting the embers of hope in a community that had slowly begun to dim. A break in the case. It was one of those cold, gray mornings in late November when the tide shifted unexpectedly. The relentless drone of the investigation had become an exhausting routine, each day punctuated by dwindling optimism. Detective Henderson sat at his desk, paperwork stacked high, when the phone rang. His heartbeat quickened as he answered. Every call varied in its potential to uncover a breakthrough or deepen despair. The voice on the other end belonged to Officer Morales, charged with poring over surveillance footage from local businesses in a last desperate ploy to trace Jenna's final movements. Detective Morales began, breathless with urgency. You need to see this. Within the hour, Henderson found himself in front of a flickering monitor at the police station. As the grainy video played out, his heart raced. The camera, set up outside a gas station on the outskirts of Maplewood, captured clear footage of Jenna on the night she vanished, exiting the vehicle of a boy who wasn't Eric. The sight sent a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. Her laughter was visible as she playfully shoved the unknown male. Her body language relaxed, carefree even. "Who is he?" Henderson asked, straightening in his chair, his mind racing. Morales leaned in, eyes narrowing. "We're looking into it." His car matches the description of one that's been spotted near the high school recently. As more investigation unfolded, the team identified the boy as Ryan Marshall, a recent transfer student whose reputation was one of charm, mixed with a hint of recklessness. Ties began to surface. Friends he'd made since coming to Maplewood painted him as the life of the party, but a few mentioned a quick temper that materialized when he felt slighted. Henderson moved quickly, piecing together a timeline of Ryan's whereabouts on the night of Jenna's disappearance. Interviews with classmates revealed whispers of an encounter that didn't sit right, a miscommunication that left Ryan enraged by something Jenna had said earlier that week. As more evidence emerged, it became increasingly clear that the initial focus on Eric had obscured the deadly potential of this new suspect. As Henderson's pulse quickened at the prospect of real progress, he knew the stakes. The darkness gripping Maplewood could soon be illuminated, and the pursuit of justice for Jenna Thompson had taken a critical turn. Hope flickered anew. This time, maybe this time, his team could unlock the door to the truth. The suspect. The sun cast long shadows across the Maplewood High School parking lot as Detective Henderson and Officer Morales approached Ryan Marshall. They'd chosen to confront him at school, where the bustling energy of students moving between classes provided an air of normalcy, a stark contrast to the gravity surrounding them. Henderson's heart pounded with anticipation as they caught sight of the tall, blonde-haired teenager leaning against his car, surrounded by peers unaware of the storm brewing in their midst. "Ryan Marshall?" Henderson called, his voice firm, cutting through the chatter. Ryan turned, his smile quickly fading as he recognized the officers. There was a moment of stillness, a flash of confusion mingling with something deeper. "Yes, sir," he replied, exuding casual confidence that masked the tension coiling beneath. "Can we have a word?" They ushered him away from the gathering crowd, leading him to a quieter corner near the school's end. Henderson took a deep breath, steadying himself for the confrontation. "We're investigating the disappearance of Jenna Thompson. We have some questions about your relationship with her." As the detective articulated the details, Ryan's demeanor shifted. The charm he had worn like a mask faded swiftly, morphing into something more guarded. "Jenna? I barely knew her. We talked once or twice, that's it," he insisted, his voice rising slightly, betraying the effort to maintain composure. "Witnesses saw you together the night she went missing," Morales interjected, watching Ryan intently. Ryan's eyes widened momentarily, but he quickly regained his composure. "He hung out after school." The deflection sounded rehearsed, a reaction too swift, too measured. It set off alarms in Henderson's mind. "What? Do you remember about the night?" Henderson pressed, maintaining a steady gaze. As Ryan fidgeted under the scrutiny, the facade of casual indifference began to crack. His lips thinned into a tight line, and for a fleeting moment, fear danced in his blue eyes. "The coup was with friends. We went to a party." He glanced around nervously as though searching for an exit. The detective seized the opportunity to probe further, aware that the cracks were beginning to widen. "Who were you with? Can anyone corroborate your story?" Henderson's tone was unyielding, a wall of certainty that pressed Ryan further. The boy shifted, the confidence eroded by the weight of his panic. As Ryan stumbled over his alibi, the pieces began to align. A history of anger, a new horizon of unexplained associations. If his account failed to hold water, if he unraveled under the pressure, they could find not just a reason behind Jenna's tragic fate, but perhaps the man responsible for extinguishing her brilliant light. The next few days would be critical. The clock was ticking, and justice for Jenna seemed to hinge precariously on one suspect, who may not be as innocent as he'd hoped the town would believe. The trial. The air in the courthouse was thick with anticipation as the trial of Ryan Marshall commenced. The seats filled quickly, a blend of community members, reporters, and Jenna's grieving family, all eager to witness the proceedings of a case that had unnervingly linked them together in suffering and hope. Each face reflected the emotional turmoil that had gripped Maplewood since that fateful autumn evening when laughter was silenced forever. Detective Henderson sat among the spectators, his attention steady on the front of the courtroom, where Ryan sat at the defendant's table, flanked by a sharp-suited attorney whose confidence seemed to clash starkly with the uncertainty radiating from his client. Ryan's demeanor varied from nervous fidgeting to bursts of brief, cocky bravado, an unsettling mixture that left many in the audience whispering and glancing at one another with judgment. The prosecution opened with a compelling narrative. Jenna's last known moments, culminating in her disturbing disappearance and tragic death. They revealed evidence that painted a portrait of a young woman, vibrant and full of life, now reduced to a memory, tragically marred by betrayal. Witnesses recounted moments of tension leading up to Jenna's death, including incidents involving Ryan that were sprinkled with aggression, born from jealousy and possessiveness. As the days of testimony wore on, the defense focused on undermining the investigation and the reliability of witness accounts, characterizing them as flawed recollections driven by emotional biases. They devoured every opportunity to sow doubt, emphasizing Ryan's alibi from that night at the party, introducing friends who claimed he's innocent. Then came the turning point. Ryan took the stand to testify. The courtroom was hushed, and Henderson felt a tense energy ripple through the crowd. Under the steady gaze of the prosecutor, Ryan recounted his version of events with a mixture of charm and indignation. "I didn't even know Jenna that well," he claimed, his voice feigning hurt as he brushed against the emotional licks of theater. But there was a tremor beneath his bravado, a sense of unfiltered fear that seeped through as he recounted the evening. "Do you feel responsible for what happened?" The prosecutor pressed, her voice cutting through his bravado. Ryan faltered, shoulders slumping slightly as the weight of expectation bore down on him. "No, I couldn't help it," he exclaimed, and the courtroom fell silent. The anguished gasps were palpable. Henderson watched as the facade slipped, and for the first time, colleagues and citizens alike glimpsed the possibility of guilt lurking beneath Ryan's appealing exterior. As closing arguments were presented, Henderson felt the collective heartbeat of the gallery, a symphony of hope and despair. With a community yearning for vindication, it became clear. This was not just about Ryan. It was a reflection of their own scars. The jury's deliberation lasted barely 2 days. Each tick of the clock echoing in the emotional void. When the verdict was finally announced guilty of second-degree murder, the collective breaths released a tide of relief and grief. The burden of loss transformed into the fragile first steps toward healing. Justice, while bittersweet, began to settle over Maplewood like a soft blanket, the promise of accountability finally caressing the town that had long mourned. The aftermath. In the weeks that followed Ryan Marshall's conviction, Maplewood began to exhale a collective breath drawn tight for too long, now released into the crisp winter air. The shadow of Jenna's tragic end hung heavily, yet a resolve started to take root within the community, intertwining mourning with a newfound determination for change. Vigils had been held, candles lighting up the night as small groups of local residents gathered to remember Jenna Thompson, the girl who had become a source of unity instead of division. Her laughter echoed through photographs displayed on makeshift altars, and the townspeople's whispers turned to chants of justice, of hope for a safer environment. Detective Henderson found himself moving through the town with a profound sense of bittersweet reflection. Guilt nagged at him, a reminder of how close they had danced around critical leads before finally drawing the truth into the light. He visited the now empty Thompson residence, where the walls still held remnants of Jenna's spiritual laughter, her aspirations, her dreams that had been cruelly interrupted. He saw her parents, weighed down by grief, yet sparked with the strength of purpose. They had channeled their suffering into advocacy, embarking on a mission to strengthen community awareness about bullying and unhealthy relationships. Determined to ensure no other family would experience such a devastating loss. In schools, assemblies dedicated to Jenna's memory became commonplace. They opened conversations about mental health and the importance of recognizing emotional signals that might hint at deeper struggle. Teachers and students engaged in workshops, discussing red flags and support systems, fostering environments where words held power and hope could thrive. However, amid the glowing tributes, darkness lingered. Whispered rumors, born of confusion and anger, filled the quieter spaces of Maplewood, catalyzing blame toward one another. Some called for the imposition of stricter penalties on young offenders, while others demanded support for at-risk youth. Henderson felt the tension ebb and flow like ocean waves. While no one had all the answers, there was a realization that the discourse must continue, that healing would demand patience and unity. As winter dulled out the vibrancy of life in town, one thing became clear. Jenna's death had crystallized the fragility of existence, yet it had also sparked a connection among strangers now turning towards each other, willing to be vulnerable and vocal. Schools had tightened policies. Local programs aimed at elevating emotional support expanded, and the once silent threads of community began to weave tighter together. In the months to follow, Henderson would continue his efforts to help bridge the gaps left in the wake of tragedy. The task was monumental. The legacy of Jenna Thompson loomed larger than any one narrative could contain. But now, where a happy future had once been snuffed out, the gentle promise of a community transformed glimmered faintly on the horizon. Through the darkness, healing began with heavy hearts and strong resolve, illuminating a path for the future they would forge together. Reflection. As the seasons shifted in Maplewood, it became a time of introspection. a period for reevaluating life, loss, and the legacies carried forward by those left behind. On the annals of the town's history, the name Jenna Thompson would forever be etched not merely as a victim but as a catalyst for change, illuminating the path toward understanding and compassion in a world that often seemed devoid of both. Detective Henderson stood on the porch of a community center, newly established in Jenna's honor. Neighborhood gatherings echoed with laughter, yet the gravity of their shared history hung in the air. There were gatherings for support and remembrance, for keeping Jenna's spirit alive, threading her story into lessons that shaped the hearts of children yet to come. Henderson often found himself reflecting on the interconnectedness of lives, how easily joy could twist into tragedy, and how quickly it could spark resilience. Each case he'd worked revealed shades of humanity, a reminder of the vulnerabilities shared by all. Maplewood had come to understand that justice was only the beginning, that healing took time, and that every story mattered. Sitting among the gathered community one evening as a vibrant golden sunset bathed the center in warmth, he marveled at their transformation. It was a bittersweet comfort. They could not change the past, but they could honor it, binding the community with threads of hope. Resilience flourished in the hearts that chose to remember Jenna, to advocate for mindfulness and connection. The determination that grew from sorrow kindled a flame in the depths of their beings, igniting a promise never to forget a vow, to ensure that justice would always be followed by compassion.